Okay, somebody literally tweeted today and they go, NC State lost to LSU, LSU lost to Texas, Texas lost to South Carolina, South Carolina lost to UConn, UConn lost to USC, USC lost to Notre Dame, Notre Dame lost to NC State, NC State lost to South Carolina, South Carolina lost to UCLA, UCLA lost to USC, and so on. As you can tell, March is going to be psychotic. And I was like, damn. This will be the perfect time. Let's talk about March Madness real quickly. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Justice, giving you all my verdicts and views about women's basketball. And literally like last week, somebody in one of the lives was like, Justice, how do they decide the seeding for March Madness? How does March Madness all take place? And well, I'm here to give you that information. So there are currently 351 NCAA Division I women's basketball teams. And of that 351, only 68 will go dancing. And obviously from that 68, only one will be crowned your national champion. Right now, everything that led you up to this point goes out the window. A new season essentially is beginning. If you have been trashed the entire season, if you end up showing up right now in conference tournament, that is when it matters the most. So obviously the first question that we need to address is, how are those 68 teams even chosen? And it goes down in two different facets. So the first being an automatic bid and the second being an at-large bid. So teams are able to get an automatic bid if they win their conference tournament. It doesn't matter if you have lost all your games up until this point. If you win your conference tournament, you are going dancing. Now, the other teams are selected by the selection committee through what is called an at-large bid. Now, first question. Who's on the selection committee? So the selection committee is comprised of 12 different individuals. This is athletic directors, conference commissioners, other high-level people within the NCAA, senior women's sports commissioner people. There's an array of different individuals who comprise of the committee. Now, the committee is responsible for deciding, one, who's going to get those at-large bids, and then also the rankings and the seedings that everybody's going to have in the tournament. Basically, the committee has some of the biggest responsibilities going to the tournament and ultimately has a lot of power in kind of just the success that some of these teams are going to have in the tournament, honestly. So basically, at-large bids can be a little sticky. I'm not going to lie to you. Now, at-large bids are given to the teams who did not win their conference tournament, but in the selection committee eyes are still some of the top teams in the NCAA out of that 351. And you may be asking yourself, well, how do they keep it fair? Like, what is the criteria that they're looking at to give people an at-large bid? So the first thing that they're looking at is your team's net ranking. So this is the primary tool that the committee uses to kind of sort through the various teams and kind of weight just how good your team is. This is based upon your defensive rating, your offensive rating, strength of schedule, strength of competition. They calculate all that, puts into a nice number, and that is going to give you your net ranking. The second thing that they look at is going to be the strength of your schedule. Did you schedule just a bunch of gimme teams, or did you put yourself in a position against some of the top teams? This especially comes into play if you are in a weaker conference. If you stacked up your non-conference and challenged yourself against some dominant teams, that definitely gives you points with the committee when they're looking at giving out at-large bids. The third thing that they're looking at is the quality of your wins. So have you gotten some wins against some ranked opponents? Have you got some of those wins on the road? Then they're also looking at bad losses. What did those losses look like, and were they against weaker opponents? Also, the committee is looking at your conference. Unfortunately, if you are in a mid-major, you are at a disadvantage. No matter if your team end up going 30-5 or something crazy like that and had an outstanding season, you only had 4 losses, you probably will lose your bid compared to a team who is in the SEC and end up losing 6 games or something like that, just because the committee takes into consideration the difficulty of your schedule. And obviously, if you are in a Power 5 school, your schedule is going to be much more difficult than somebody who plays in the WAC or something like that. So once the committee has identified the 68 teams, they seat and they rank them. And again, this is another situation where it gets a little bit sticky and it's a little bit subjective. There has been a little bit of drama when the committee starts handing out seedings and rankings. Where you get ranked and seated can ultimately impact how far you go in the tournament. So how the committee determines how they seat and they rank everybody is similar to how they pick who is going to get those at-large bids. Kind of the same criteria. They're looking at some of the things we went over before: your non-conference schedule, the strength of your schedule, the strength of your wins, the losses that you had, your competition, conference you're in, the whole nine. Now, the NCAA does also have this thing called the play-in games. So there are 4 play-in games that 8 teams participate in. So the 4 bottom at-large teams, and then the 4 teams who are the weakest in the automatic bids are going to play each other for those last spots in the official first round of 64. So like I briefly mentioned, bracket placing is everything in the NCAA tournament. Where you get placed and what regional you get placed in can be a great factor in how deep you go in the tournament. So the first thing is, right now you'll see conversation on social media, things of that nature, where people are talking about that number 1 seed. Everyone's fighting for that number 1 seed, because when you get that number 1 seed, the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament, you'll get home court advantage. And in the tournament, playing and you're being able to sleep in your own bed, being able to play in front of your own fans, you know what I mean? Home court advantage does matter, but also your bracket placing is everything. I mean, like, on one hand, you're like, yes, we finally made it to the NCAA tournament. And then you see you're playing South Carolina. You're like, well, damn. But that could have been avoided if you got a different ranking. So yes, seedings matter, rankings matter, all that matter. And it all comes down to the committee. So honestly, guys, I welcome you guys to March Madness. Anything can happen in March. Right now, you'll start seeing people participate in their conference tournaments. You'll start seeing people, punch their ticket to go dancing. When Selection Sunday happens, that's when we will figure out who is awarded that automatic bid, who makes tournament, and where those other 36 spots will be divvied out, for the teams who did not win their conference tournament. And then also who they will end up playing and what regional they will be in. I would get prepared, guys. Anything can happen in March. Prepare yourself for upsets. Prepare yourself for crazy Cinderella stories. I'm excited to see what happens. I just want to know personally who you guys think will be taking home a national title this year.